We are currently being joined by Miss Kathy Kennedy, Gareth Edwards, Diego Luna, Alan Tudyk, Donnie Yen, and John Knoll. Good morning. Hi, guys.
Good morning. Good morning.
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 So we've talked quite a bit about how you've been a Star Wars fan pretty much your whole life. So the lead up to Rogue One has been a pretty long road. Now that people are seeing the movie and you're getting feedback, how do you feel?
It's strange. Obviously, this is a very strange period in making a film. This little moment here, because for about 2.5 years you're really busy making it and your head's down and you can't really think about anything else. And now we've finished the movie, but we haven't released it. I feel like we're a little bit pregnant, and the due date is we're just ready to give birth and like share it with the world.
My water broke.
Sorry, please. Sorry.
Yeah, you're just like right on the cusp of it.
Yeah, it's kind of frustrating in a weird way to not be able to just show you all the movie now, because the cast got to see it for the first time 2 days ago, and well, I let them speak about it, but it went down very well, I think.
That's awesome.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Here. Hi. Could you just talk about, in finding this character, was it all on the script, or did you go back and look at other Star Wars films to sort of figure out where your kind of character fits into the hierarchy, or was it just all there for you once you read the story?
It was a mixture of everything. But at the beginning, yes, I started just with the script that was already interesting enough for me to kind of dig into myself and try to find this captain inside me. And I guess the most important part was to do the military training, You have to establish a parallel to, with this galaxy far, far away and the world you live in. And it was very interesting to be. I spent 2 weeks with this ex-military in London, just talking about experiences and about the last 10 or 15 years of his life, and that gave me enough material. And then, I mean, I love Star Wars and I love the films, and A New Hope is probably the first film I really connected with. So I would go back to that film to find a connection again. But it was more about seeing war films, Apocalypse Now, for example, stuff like that, because my character needs that kind of military structure, and is a guy that is willing to risk anything for this cause, But he thinks in a hierarchical kind of a structure, and he has to start there, at least in this film. So yeah, that was the research I did.
Hi guys, Lucas Siegel from comicbook.com. Donnie, I have a question for you. I'm right up front here, Donnie. I have a question for you, Donnie. How much of obviously the Force is very much derived from Eastern philosophy. How much of your study of martial arts helped you develop your relationship with the Force as Chirrut Îmwe?
Well, that's a good question, but I never thought about relating to the martial arts. I always think of the Force. We all have the Force. It's just we don't realize it. It's kind of like I think it's interesting to see. To me, Star Wars story is about reminding us that things that we neglect and forget, and the Force is all, we always have these kind of ability, and. To answer your questions, I don't think of it as having the martial arts ability. It's just being a human being. You do have the Force.
Question for Gareth. It's been revealed that George Lucas came to the set of this. What's it like to have George on set? And has he seen any footage yet? Does he have plans to see?
Can I?
Yeah, I think he's okay with.
So 2 days ago, we got to show George the movie, and we all had a phone call, and I got to speak with him yesterday, and I don't want to put words into his mouth, but I can honestly say that I can die happy now. He really liked the movie, so it meant a lot. To be honest, and no offense to anyone here, it was the most important review to me, was what George thought of it. You know, you guys are important too, but come on. He's kind of God when it comes to Star Wars. What's that?
The wildest phone call, though. I mean,
Yeah, it was. We're in the middle of doing press, and you know, you have one interview, another interview, and then suddenly they said, we need to take a break. And I was like, I'm okay. And it's like, no, we need to take a break. And then they go, we need to talk to you. We're going to just go out the room. And it's like, what's going on? Something bad's happened? And we go into a room, they say, George wants to speak to you. And they made the call, and I was like, And yeah, and I will take that conversation to my grave. It was a real privilege, and he you know, his opinion means the world to me. So, and John and Kathy have spoke to him, so it's, yeah.
Hi, I'm Maggie Lyons from Amy Poehler's Smart Girls back here. This is a question for Kathy, sort of a follow-up on the last question. In terms of women specifically in Jyn Erso, what do you think the future of women in Star Wars could mean for women in media and the world at large, and why is it important to you to foster that
first of all, I hope it has that level of impact. That would be great. You know, I think it is really important. I found it really interesting when I first stepped into this job and I started to look at, you know, what does it mean to be a female hero, a female heroine? And when you started to look, certainly online, at imagery, it was pretty shocking what came up. And I think the character of Rey, the character of Jyn, I think these are empowered women that are not necessarily just taking on male characteristics. They're genuinely female heroines. And I think that's really important to the way we tell stories. And so I do hope you're right. I think it will make a difference.
Thank you.
Jerome Maida, Philadelphia Daily News. I have a two-part question. One is for Gareth. I just want to say, from the footage I saw, tremendous accomplishment. What was your challenge, you think, because the tone on this is so much different from other Star Wars films? It's more a war movie and heist movie, as they say. And how you have that different tone so you get something different but still feel like Star Wars? What's the challenge with that? And for Kathy, follow-up like question a lot of people ask is, one of the things that slightly annoys me when people bring up, oh, you have a female lead, it's as if we've never had a strong female character before. From Bette Davis to Katniss Everdeen, there's been a lot of strong female characters, which, how do you feel about that? And how do you feel that, I just feel that, from what I've seen, she has an opportunity to be one of the most memorable characters, period, that we've seen?
Yeah, the tone was, we essentially got a license to be different on this movie and take a risk. The great thing about being a standalone film, we don't really have to exist for other movies to continue, etc. And so we could be brave, and that's what we did. And I feel like in terms of Star Wars is that I love tonally. I guess the one we were aiming for was something like Empire Strikes Back. Where our movie, even though we take it quite seriously, there's a lot of fun and humor in it, and hope, is the key thing, is that it's about trying to achieve something. The story really behind the movie is like all these different people from all these different backgrounds that have very little in common. If they believe in a good, future for the world, they come together and we all are better off when we work together than on our own. And so we just tried to make the most realistic version of Star Wars that we'd seen, and it involved a lot of different techniques, but I can't even remember Kathy's question.
I can remember.
You can remember it.
So I think you're absolutely right. I find that it is a bit irritating that when there's progress being made and strong female characters being created, it tends to be forgotten. And I think that's because long periods of time go on in between. But I think it speaks to what I was talking about before, which is these are big tentpole, sort of frankly male-driven, boy-driven kinds of entertainment in the past. And that's why I was saying that I think the idea of a female hero is what's new. I think that heroine concept is what's been lacking. And I think in this movie, the irony is she's not, as you say, necessarily just a female hero. She's just a very strong, wonderful character in a movie. And to highlight that as being something specific to being a woman, I agree. I think that's what I hope disappears over time, that we're not constantly highlighting this as though it's something unusual, but that it actually just becomes the vernacular of storytelling.
My name is Brian Young. I'm asking about the footage last night. There seemed to be a moral complexity to the universe there, whether that's Cassian doing things that maybe aren't the most heroic.
What do you mean?
Or even all the toy packaging for K2SO says that maybe he's trying to make up for something. I mean, he is an Imperial droid. I'm wondering if all of you could kind of speak to that moral gray area where Star Wars before always seemed to be very black and white about heroes and villains.
Diego, you talked a lot about that.
Yeah, I think it's and it connects with hello. It's like censorship. Here's hello. I want to communicate to the world. Please let me. There we go. I think it's a modern approach to Star Wars, and we live in a different world today. You know, so if you revisit all the films. It's kind of like a stamp of what was going on and a reflection on the world back then, you know, and ours has to do the same. And we live in a diverse world where racial and cultural diversity is in fact making us richer and more interesting. And but it is a complex world we live in, and making the right choice many times looks horrible, you know, and these people are in war, you know. When you mention Cassian doing something not heroic, I would say no. Cassian it's a true hero, as Jyn and everyone in this team, you know. It's just that they are the heroes we can be, just regular people doing amazing stuff, you know, and no special powers, no Jedis, no. It's just conviction and teamwork. And yeah, that hope of actually being able to shape the reality we live in, and that makes them great, you know. But yes, they have to make choices on the way, and war is horrible. I mean, no one wants war to happen. None of these characters would choose war, you know. But it's the last chance, you know, and they have to do it.
So a lot of people think that K2 is strictly CG, but you were actually on set in like a mocap suit and stilts and stuff.
Yes.
What was that performance like? What was it like being on set with everyone who was in character and you're kind of removed from it a bit?
I got this Diego, because he's going to give his opinion of it. Diego was very funny about certain aspects of my costume, let's say. I was wearing a full body, jumpsuit sort of thing, and it's such a new technology. Even still, we've been introduced to it in a lot of different ways. Sometimes people wear cameras on their head. Sometimes there's dots all over their face. They have balls all over their suit. The way that ILM did it, I wore a suit that was very comfortable. It didn't have all of that restriction on it. It was just had interesting designs on it, which
cool looking.
It was
really
very cool looking.
Oh, come on, dude.
Come on! It was like a luge costume from like the Italian team. Like it looked cool, and yeah, I mean it didn't have the colors, but still. And then I was on stilts, so I was 7'1", so I towered over everyone most of the time, and it was great. Just even at that height, it colors how you move, and it helped me get into character. It was fantastic. It was basic. It was basically just acting, but then. The makeup and the costume came later, but because you're on set, you are able to create a character with the other actors. Without that, you can't tell a story with the true character. who can react in a moment with some of the stuff Diego's throwing at you. You need to be able to throw it right back.
And Alan, I think you're shortchanging yourself a little bit too, because you stepped into amazing iconography with robots in Star Wars. And, you know, when you figure that C-3PO and R2-D2 and now BB-8, what was amazing about what Alan did is he had to find what that individual sense was so that he could create another robot in the family of robots in Star Wars, and I think he definitely did that. He's going to be very memorable.
I think John Nola testified to this, is that there's a feeling, you can't help it because it's CGI, there's a feeling on set which is, you know, if we change our minds, if we want to change his performance a little bit, it's in the computer, maybe we can worry about that later.
You kept saying that again and again. That's why
we shot the whole thing as if K2 was... Whatever Alan did on set, whatever it was exactly what K2 was going to do in the final film. And so, you know, K2 would get, you know, when Alan, no offense, but would screw up a few times, and we'd do multiple takes, even though you're thinking, oh, can't you just animate this stuff? And you can't. And what we learned was on the very few occasions, there were times where we wanted to tweak something. We go, you know what, just maybe do something a little bit different to what Alan did. And every single time it didn't work. And we had to be true to Alan's performance all the time. And even when we wanted to tweak something, we got Alan back, and we re-recorded him on film and copied his performance because he is K2. And a lot of the humor that's in the film that's really funny is just this guy improvising. He was given freedom to do whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. And there are shots we couldn't use because sometimes I was holding the camera and I'm laughing and the camera's rocking up and down and there's stuff we can't even talk about, but it was hilarious.
I'll be on behind the scenes. Welcome. Hi guys, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Neela from Australia. Felicity, I was wondering, there's a scene in the film where Cassian just has to stand back and watch Jyn kick Stormtrooper butt, which I thought was fantastic. I wonder how you feel seeing yourself do that, and if the process of finding Jyn for you was about maybe finding your inner warrior that you didn't know you had.
Yeah, well, it's in Jyn's head, it's very clear she hates the Empire. So, so anytime she sees stormtroopers, she has this kind of very clear instinct to take them down. So, so I just tapped into that energy that Jyn has, and I'd never done that kind of thing before. It was very new, the whole kind of physical preparation, that side of acting. I'm kind of used to lots of, you know, talking in corsets, so it was really nice to be running around with a blaster and a baton to bash stormtroopers with. But it was, yeah, it was an extraordinary process, and you work very closely with the stunt team who take you through every kind of move and moment and support you throughout the whole thing. And I was very lucky to have a great support from the stunt team doing it.
What format was Rogue One shot on, and why have you guys chosen the specific formats that you're shooting for the new Star Wars movies?
Well, we had the difficult task of, we were kind of making a period piece as well. We're making a film that's sort of, we'd say to the crew and the designers, like, imagine this is set in 1977 and don't do anything we couldn't have done back then in terms of aesthetic. And that applied to the camera work to some extent, in that, but obviously in today's cinema, you know, we've got these 4K projections and things going on in IMAX, and this brand new camera had come out from Arri, and it was incredible, and it's like 4 times the resolution of normal film cameras. But Greg, the DOP, was like, okay, this is fantastic, but we also want to go back to the 70s with the analog kind of look of the movie. And so he got hold of this Panavision lens that's from 70mm anamorphic. They shot Ben-Hur with this actual lens. And for the first time ever in cinema, Arri and Panavision, which are 2 separate companies in the film industry, they came together to make one camera for Star Wars. And it was incredible. And for those who are technically minded, what the result is, you get this very narrow depth of field. So if you're focused on me, the background's quite blurred and the foreground's quite blurred. And it was a nightmare for the focus puller. There was young guy called Jake, and he performed a miracle because we were like, there was battle scenes, we didn't put marks down, we were just running in there with the camera, and he was always getting the focus. We didn't drop any shot out of the movie because it was out of focus. And I think a lot of the beauty in the film is down to the cameras that we used. So it had that look of, like, it's like a modern version of the past, you know, was kind of what we're going for, which is kind of what Rogue One is trying to achieve.
Yeah, and I would just say that I think what's really great about the fact that we're now moving into these standalone movies is that we're bringing in essentially auteur directors like Gareth, and we're really supporting those directors and their vision, and we're looking at each of these movies without a rule book. We're basically saying, okay, here's a new story, a new movie, a new approach. What do we want to do? And we're very open to that. And I think it very much is in the spirit of what George Lucas did to begin with. I mean, he inspired ILM. Innovation and technological innovation was extremely important to him. And it's very much a part of the culture of this company. So that's what we want to continue.
Yeah, I mean, it was all subconscious to some extent. We've watched Star Wars to death. Like, you guys, I think, have seen the opening of the film, most of you, if not all of you. And it's kind of a reflection of Star Wars A New Hope to some extent. And this is really a segue so I can get these guys in, because we went to Iceland to film the opening scene, and it didn't occur to me till later that when you think about A New Hope, you know, the very first time you see the antagonist come in, Darth Vader, it's a black guy in a black cape surrounded by white stormtroopers. And at the opening of our film, there's a guy in a white cape surrounded by black stormtroopers. And it's all these subconscious things where we're trying to take what's familiar but sort of invert it or twist it. And filming that scene with Ben and Mads, it was one of the hardest things we've ever filmed. When people say, what's the hardest scene you ever did? I think it was probably that one, because we were freezing our tits off out there. And the worst thing was fog was coming in and then it'd suddenly disappear. So we'd set up these amazing shots and we'd be really excited, and then suddenly there'd be a whiteout and you couldn't see like 3 meters ahead of you. You'd have to wait, and then suddenly it would clear. And these are like two of the most incredible actors in the world. And it was just so good to just put them up against each other and go and let it unfold. And Ben is so relaxed in front of the camera that he would start like just messing around. Like, he's very playful. And I thought he was reciting Shakespeare or something, like to get himself into character. And then I would listen carefully to the lyrics and realize he was singing Billie Jean by Michael Jackson. And even like Frozen, I think. There was like times where...
Oh yeah, I did sing a bit of Frozen.
Yeah. What was it? We used to be friends or whatever?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I did the We Used to Be Friends. I can't... No, it's escaping me now, but yes.
I remember it vividly.
Very intimidating, I'm sure.
Michael Adato from the Sydney Morning Herald in Australia. A question for Gareth and also for Ben. The big cameo here, obviously, or the big kind of guest appearance, is Darth Vader. Can you talk a little bit about working with that costume, how powerful that image is in cinema, and when you are actually actors on a working film set, what happens in the tipping point between dealing with an actor in a costume and the fact that that actor in that costume is a very powerful personal cinematic image that is present in front of you?
Want to go?
The first thing you have to do is just get over the fact that you're doing a scene with Darth Vader, and that takes that took me a little while, because I am I'm a first generation fanboy, so I was it took a little while to feel like I could answer him with some solidity, like we could have a discussion, as it were. That took a little while, and also Darth is his gestures and his mannerisms are so familiar that finding someone that can execute that in a way that is fluid is its own skill set. And so that requires a certain amount of thought and consideration too when you're doing it. But, you know.
There was a time, Ben, you all know Ben's work. He's got this ability to be, if he wants to be incredibly intimidating. And in the entire process of making the film, it was a kid in a candy store. We had an amazing time. And I kept thinking, I wonder if there'll ever be this moment where I'll see like some of the characters he's played or something pop out. And we were in the middle of filming the scene with Darth, and Ben was like, Gareth, I need to talk to you. And I was like, what's the matter? And he goes, I need to go in the corner and talk to you. I need to have a word. And it was like, oh, here we go, what's the matter? And we go over and I'm like, are you all right, Ben? He's like, nah. And it's like, what's the matter? And he goes, it's Darth Vader. And I was like, I know. And we both had this little moment where we melted and we could just admit it, and then we turned around really professionally like, okay, we'll try and fix that. And we walked back.
I would geek out too. I mean, it's probably still pretty difficult to pull a scene with Darth Vader and like not turn into a child again.
And you can tell when he's coming on set, because we learned a little bit that we should do the rehearsals and talk through the scene without the costume. Yeah. Because as soon as that helmet goes on, it's too intimidating. You can't give direction to Darth Vader. Like, you know, he tells you what he's going to do. And but then what happens is, you know, film sets are really noisy. There's a lot of, you know, banging and clattering going on. And suddenly it just starts to get quiet, and you're chatting to someone, and why has it gone so quiet? And in comes Darth Vader, and he stands on, and the whole crew is just like a 5-year-old going like this. And it happens to everybody, and then you think, oh, I've got to go over and speak to him. And you have to snap out of it. It is probably one of the highlights of getting to do this film, was little moments like that. And you're very aware of it. Everyone there is very aware of it. And you become the most popular person in the world the day you're filming those scenes, because you look round and there's...
Everyone turns up.
Yeah. Mads, your character Galen is kind of a complicated character, because he's not. I mean, he does. You know, he's involved with bad things, but he's not necessarily a villain. What kind of approach do you have to like a character with that sort of complexity?
No, but he's. I mean, I think that as actors we always try to find like the two sides of a character, but definitely it's in this one because. He's working together with this gentleman in something that he believes from the very beginning has a project that has the ability to change the world into a better place. So be it that it turns out that he's working on something that he didn't know, and for that reason he's in a gigantic dilemma. And for the reasons I will not spoil here, the dilemma gets even bigger. So yes, that's a gray zone here. Mm-hmm. As you said, it used to be maybe in the 70s, in the 80s, a little more black and white, but there are a lot of grays in here.
Question?
Behind you again.
Oh,
David from Endor Express. I asked the cast earlier about their thoughts on their first action figures. I know Mads doesn't have one yet, but hopefully soon. And so I wanted to hear the cast on their thoughts of getting finally themselves in plastic form, and if Gareth could talk about the score by Michael Giacchino at all.
Okay.
We'll start with the action figures, because that's always fun.
Reg, you got one, right?
Chris has a few.
I did get an action figure. I was very pleased because I think he's a lot better looking than I am. I think they accidentally modeled it on Diego or something. He's easily confused. It was a kind of surreal, amazing moment, to be honest. I remember kind of playing with those toys as a kid, and so to be part of that universe, you know, in plastic is an amazing thing.
Christmas shopping is easy.
Yeah, right. Slightly narcissistic, but yeah, giving everyone little versions.
And they're like, why are you giving me?
Christmas?
Why are you giving me Diego? I thought you wanted to give me yours.
Yeah,
exactly. Michael did an amazing score for us. He's a massive Star Wars fan. I think a lot of us compete for who's the biggest Star Wars fan working on the film. And I go around his house, and you walk in the door, and in his main front room is, I don't know how big, but it feels like it's that big, but it's like 13-foot tall framed poster of A New Hope, and sort of joke like, oh, you didn't have to do that for us. And he's like, no, this has been up for like 13 years. And he said he listened to Empire Strikes Back soundtrack to death as a kid, and it's just, I think the vocabulary of that music is in him, and it just poured out. And there's stuff, I mean, you know, there's particular moments in the film, musically, especially towards the end, that is truly stunning and very emotional. And I think he just knocked it out of the park. We were very lucky.
Wow, so what did you think of that? Now, staying with Star Wars, for many of us, John Williams and his rousing scores are practically synonymous with the franchise. At 83 years old, the composer came back to contribute to The Force Awakens, but sadly, he will not work on any of the anthology movies. Consequently, we won't hear his soaring themes in Rogue One, making it the first Star Wars movie to hit theatres without a Williams score. Now, while he may be no John Williams, Gareth Edwards and company have found a strong replacement in Academy Award-winning composer André Desplat. He and Edwards worked together on Godzilla, and there are a few composers out there as celebrated as Desplat right now. He has received an Oscar for his work on Wes Anderson's The Grand Budapest Hotel, and he was actually competing against himself in that race, as he was also nominated for his contribution to The Imitation Game. It'll be interesting to see if he puts his own unique stamp on Star Wars with Rogue One, or if he attempts to channel John Williams. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.